So today we're going to talk about how we as individuals can have a impacting ministry on other people for Jesus, right? So the reality is that we as a church can do a lot, right? We can do things like youth group, kids clubs, Drew preaches, we do stuff online, we do video stuff, even the yard sale yesterday, we got people down here on the property, and that's all great. But then if you look out there on a Sunday morning, there were like 52 of us today, right? Think of all the people that you know that don't know Jesus. And maybe some of them were here today, maybe some of them weren't, right? But the reality is that there's a lot of opportunity for us as a church to do a lot of good and impact people for Jesus, but then there's also a lot of opportunity for us as individuals to do the same thing. And I would argue that probably there's more opportunity for us as individuals, at least initially. And that's because I can build relationships with a bunch of people, Kate can build relationships with a bunch of people, and so on and so forth around the room. Church is like a big scary word to a lot of people, and they don't want to step foot in a church. So if you start off with relationship building with people, then eventually maybe they will come to church, right? But, so we want to talk about having an impacting ministry, and to do that, we're going to actually look at the story of the Good Samaritan. So Luke 10:25-37, I'm just going to read it, and then we're going to kind of jump in and out of there for the rest of the time. This will be like 15 minutes if I talk long, probably. That'll be it. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this, and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of these do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." All right, so common story. So we're going to look into this story here, a really common story, popular story. Probably everybody in here knows it, probably knows it really well. But we're going to look at it in the sense of how we can have an impact on people. So to have an impact on people, first of all, we want to constantly remind ourselves that people are incredibly valuable. So looking back at 27-29, he answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." So we've got 2 commands there, right? 2 basic commands. The 2 big broad ones. 1, love God with all you've got, right? Heart, soul, mind. And then 2, love your neighbor as yourself. Generally, who do I like the most? Myself. At least that's the way I act, right? I may not think that, but generally most people, the way they act, they put themselves first, right? So love other people like you love yourself. So if we look just at that, if God says we should love others like that, then God must think people are pretty valuable, right? Obviously, then we look at, okay, he sent Jesus down on the cross for us. Of course he thinks people are super valuable, right? So then, if that's true, we should have the same mindset. Continuing in 28, "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this, and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" So now he's trying to squirrel himself out of it, probably. Anyways, that's my interpretation. And say, okay, well, these people over here, I don't like them. And besides, they live in that other town. No biggie, right? These people over here, they're okay. I can be nice to them. They can be my friends. But we want to look at it as the same question. Who's my neighbor? Who can I have an impact on? I know when Ed talks, he used the term sphere of influence a lot, and maybe someday we'll jump into that deeper. But for today, sphere of influence is just people that you're around, right? Pretty easy, basic. You might be people at the gas station, people at church, people at work, your family, whoever it might be. That's your sphere of influence, right? It's people that you can impact. So then based on these verses coming ahead, we can see that that basically is anybody that we come in contact with. Pretty simple definition. So if we remind ourselves people are valuable, and second, number 2 there, we can see that we should see the needs of people around us. Jump back into Luke 10, verse 30. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. So, if you guys know the story well, you know the first 2 guys that come by are supposed to be like the religious dudes that, all things considered, should be the people that take care of somebody that's hurt, right? They obviously don't. And then there's the Samaritan that comes by. Samaritans and Jews didn't really interact. They basically, Jews looked down on Samaritans very heavily. Pretty much thought they were like, I think Drew used the word scum of the earth earlier or something along those lines. That's, in this case, that's pretty much what they looked at him like. So for a Samaritan to step out of his way and do something nice for a Jew, especially this nice, not the normal, big deal, right? So the Samaritan saw this guy's needs, right? Guy got beat up, saw his needs. So then we want to stop and think about ourselves. What about us? Do we see the needs of people around us, whoever those people might be? There's material needs. I need to eat. I need a roof over my head, you know, that kind of thing. Physical needs, relational needs. We all need relationship. When you don't, bad things happen. It's not good for you emotionally. And then that would be the next one, emotional needs. And then, of course, spiritual needs, right? We need God in our lives. So if we realize that people are valuable, if we see their needs, now what? What do we do with that, right? That takes us to the next part there. Number 3, constantly feel the pain of those you encounter. So if you see their needs, that's a start. But now, all right, does that affect me? Or does it just like, oh, Denisha fell down and broke her nose. What do I do with that? Right? What do I don't know. I don't know.
You'll be right.
She'll be okay. So the Samaritan, verse 33 there, felt his pain. The Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, here it is, he took pity on him. So as you're interacting with somebody and you see a need in their life, all right, now what? The 2 things listed there, you can stop and think, okay, what does it feel like to be this person? Denisha fell, broke her nose. What does it feel like? Maybe you've never broken a bone. Maybe you have. Maybe you can have some experience there, right? Help you out. What would you want someone to do if you were in that person's shoes? Denisha's fallen down. Her nose is so broken she can't even stand up. I don't know why. What does she need? Well, initially she probably just needs a hand up, and then she might need to go to the hospital or whatever. I don't know. They're not going to do much for a broken nose. So as you feel their pain, right? Yes, you're valuable. Yes, we see your needs. I feel your pain. That's all great. But if it just stops there and you never go over to Denisha and help her up, not so much, right? So number 4, consistently take action to meet the needs of those around you. And that's exactly what the Samaritan did. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. So as we see needs around us, now it's time to think, okay, what actions can I take to help out people with their needs? And this is where we want to spend a little bit of time right here then in the next section is, this is going to be like a broad overview, but we want to talk about relationships that we can have as individuals and how we can take people's needs and how we can be in their lives and have that be an impact for Jesus. All right, so it's a really broad overview. It's not like, okay, finish your broken nose, we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, right? This is more of a broad stroke, anybody you come in contact with stuff, right? So number 5, consistently make long-term investments in the lives of the people around you. And that's what they are. It's an investment, right? People take time. People are messy, right? Whether you like that or not, it's true. People are messy. People take time. It takes energy. It takes a lot of work. But when it's for Jesus, it's all worth it, right? The next day, he took out 2 silver coins, gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. So not only did he take him to the inn, bandaged him up, all that, then he said, okay, innkeeper, here's some more money. Whatever he needs to take care of him. If it costs more than this, I'll be back. Right? It wasn't like, peace, here's $20, this should be enough. He actually said he would come back. So, broad strokes, how can we make long-term investments in people around us, right? Like I said, these are really general, but in your own life, you can make them specific to you and the relationships that you have, right? So there's a lot of obvious things here, like be friendly to people. That seems really obvious, but there's a lot of people that just aren't very nice anymore. And I can honestly tell you that when I'm super busy, or if there's a ton going on, it is really easy to just kind of blow by people. It is super, super easy. And so when you take the time to just stop and be friendly to people, that actually says something to a lot of people. Because it's not super, super normal anymore necessarily. So be friendly to people. Care for them. If you see a need, do something about it if you can. Initiate conversation, and then listen. I said it's pretty easy just to blow by people sometimes, but if we take the opportunity to just stop and talk to our neighbor or a family member or your cashier at the grocery store, they just see hundreds of people blow by them every day. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, But if, sometimes you can actually have a little conversation there. And that pushes us into the next one there. Take advantage of opportunities. So maybe you can go to the same gas station. Maybe you can go to the same grocery store and try to get the same cashier each time you go or whatever. And that sounds small and insignificant, but if you can manage to do that and build a relationship there, that's one more relationship. Maybe that comes to them knowing Jesus. Maybe it doesn't. But there's an opportunity there. We should take advantage of it. That leads into be in people's lives. Just be a part of their lives, see what they've got going on, ask how their day's going. When they tell you about something, say they're going to their kid's baseball game or whatever. Next time you see them, ask how the baseball game went. Sounds small and significant again, but it's those little things that actually tells people, hey, he was listening to me. That's cool. All of these things, the next point, will show people that Christians are normal too. Too often, people think church, people think Christian, and it kind of weirds them out, or it scares them, or they think we're weird, or different, or whatever. And we are weird and different, don't get me wrong. Well, some of us. Me, I am. How about that? I will speak for me. How's that? But when we build relationship with people, before long they'll see, not only are they normal, yeah, they mess up, yeah, blah, 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 but there's also something different about them. And then that leads us to the next point, is you can use God talk. So when they see there's something different with you, they might ask you why. Well, that's a cool opportunity there. When you go into work on Monday morning, probably one thing that happens on Mondays at most people's jobs is they ask what you did over the weekend, right? You can tell them we had a yard sale, you can tell them you went to church, hopefully, you're here, so you went to church today, it's little easy opportunities like that we can use that may feel like they mean nothing, but it gets that little bit in there. Church, youth group, yard sale at my church, all those different little things that you can use to get people thinking, oh, this guy goes to church and he seems all right. But that just gives you little inroads to then, last point there, give them the hope of Jesus. Maybe you aren't super outgoing. Maybe you don't think you are like a great speaker or an evangelist or whatever you might want to call it. But when you can use those little God talk words and that kind of thing, it gives you inroads to people's lives, then where you might actually have the opportunity to tell them the full gospel, or to tell them even easier than that, maybe, because a lot of people think telling people about the gospel is hard. It's fairly simple all in all, but even easier than that sometimes can be tell them how Jesus changed your life. That's personal to you. And when it's personal, it changes people. When it's personal, it makes them think about things differently. It's not just like, oh, yeah, God, Jesus, this, that. It's Jesus did this for me. My life changed from Jesus because this happened. And when I have that conversation with Kate, who's a non-Christian, doesn't know Jesus, never heard of church, whatever, not really. You're just right there, sorry. Then it has that opportunity to have an impact, and them say, huh, could my life be different? Or, as Kate says up here. So then last, number 6, so if we're doing this if we're living this way, if we're going to church, and if we're doing events and stuff here at the church too, and we're having these kind of relationships with people, it's always really easy to do, right? But then a lot of times we don't necessarily take a step back and say, okay, what's working good, what's not going so great, where can I grow, blah, 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 So it's always good, number 6, to constantly reflect on your ministry efforts. Luke 10:37, the expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. He asked, who's my neighbor? Or who was the neighbor? The one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. So now, it's this expert in the law guy's turn. Okay, you've been told something? Now what? So now it's his turn to take stock of his life and take some action, right? In other words, he heard something. What's next? Same thing with us, right? You read your Bible, you hear something. What do we do with it? Pastor Drew speaks. You hear something from the Bible, from the Word. What do we do with it, right? We apply it to our lives. What's next? So then we just want to spend a minute or two here kind of thinking through exactly that, the last section there where it says think it over. On a 1 to 10 scale, do I really demonstrate that I value people? Some days I do, some days I blow right by people, right? If we're being honest, do I really demonstrate that I value people? Because here's the reality. If somebody doesn't know Jesus and they die, that's that, right? They are going to hell if you believe what the Bible says it says. So if I care about people, I want to do something about that, right? I don't want that to happen. I want them to have a relationship with Jesus now, whether they die tomorrow or 40 years from now, and then go to heaven to be with Jesus. That's what I want. So then number 2, do those you serve really know that you care? So you could say serve or minister to or have relationship with, whatever word you want to put in there. Do those people that you know actually know that you care for them? And then how do they know this? So, last section, plan it out. Make it easy and specific, because you probably know a lot of people. Some of you know way more people than I do. So make it easy, specific, right? Think of 3 people that you know that don't know Jesus, right? Put names to it. Bill, Bob, and Joe. There we go. Right? Bill, Joe, and Bob. 3 people you know that don't know Jesus. Put names to it. Be specific, right? And then think, okay, these folks I know don't know Jesus. What can I do about that? How can I help them to know Jesus? Right? How can I build a better relationship with them so that they can see, hey, there's something different here? And then you can use God talk with and all those kind of things. So what actions do you need to take to effectively minister to other people? And specifically, those 3. Right? If you want to challenge, actually name those 3 people and then tell them to someone else. Maybe it's somebody in here, maybe it's not, but actually tell someone who your people are. And then do the scary thing and actually ask for accountability. If I say to Ben, my people are Bill, Joe, and Bob, in 3 weeks, Ben, can you ask me, text me, call me, see me at church, whatever, did I do anything with Bill, Joe, and Bob? Did I have them over and we grilled? Did I don't know, go hit golf balls or whatever? Did I chat with them in the driveway when I got home from work? Did I do anything with them? Did I take the time, the effort to specifically try to build a relationship with them so that they can come to know Jesus at some point? And then the last one, how much time have you been investing in serving per week? How much time have you been investing in building relationship with people each week? How much time might you want to spend over the coming period of months, right? But the challenge that I would put out there today as we kind of start thinking about some of these things and the fact that ministry isn't just what happens in this building. It is, right? Don't get me wrong. But we each as individuals minister too. And relationship is a massive, massive part of that. Because if I don't have relationship, I can say whatever I want to you, but it's probably going to go, because who cares if I don't know you? If I don't know you, you're not going to care. If I have that relationship with you, and we have that bond, and I have the ability to speak into your life. Somebody that doesn't know me, I don't really have the ability to speak into their life. That's why relationships are so important. So, for your challenge for today, and it's a lot of you, this is like normal stuff. This is how you try to live. But I was talking with Ben yesterday, actually, and I was saying, because this is some stuff that we as leadership and whatnot have talked about repeatedly, but it's always, always, always a good reminder for me, because it is really easy when life is a ruckus to just blow by people. I pull in the driveway and my neighbor's out. Do I just pull in the garage, or do I stop and say hey? But if I'm truly invested in trying to build a relationship and care for people and want them to come to know Jesus, then I need to take that extra step sometimes, right? So think of those people in your life that you know that they don't know Jesus, and then think, okay, now what? How can I take next steps? How can I further that relationship? And hopefully at some point either get to talk to them about Jesus, or get them to church, or both, or to an event.